It has never been more important to trust your intuition, so welcome to the rise of the reluctant psychic. Hi, I'm your host Clare Cusack, and today we'll be looking at using psychic abilities in everyday life. Have you ever felt like you're absorbing everything around you, people's emotions, thoughts, even the energy of a room, and you don't know how to turn it off? Or maybe you've had intuitive hits, gut feelings, vivid dreams, flashes of knowing, but you're not sure if you can trust them. Maybe you've even wondered, is this real? Or am I just making it up? I get it. I've been there. And I can tell you, learning to navigate these experiences rather than being ruled by them changed everything for me. In today's episode, we'll be covering questions like, how do I stay grounded while embracing my psychic abilities? Can intuition really help with decision-making in work, life, and love? And if the world embraced their psychic gifts, what would that even look like? For so long, I didn't realize I could even turn my sensitivity on or off. I thought being overwhelmed was just part of who I was. Everything shifted once I learned how to get fully present in my body, how to clear the static, and how to recognize my own energy in the midst of everything I was picking up from the world around me. Plus, we'll explore how you can use your intuition to make better choices, not just spiritually, but in your everyday life, in your relationships, and even in business. We are joined again today by the lovely Julie Rains, who will be asking the all-important questions to help to get to the heart of today's topic in Clare's Quickfire Round. Julie, let's jump straight in.
So how do you balance staying grounded in everyday life while embracing your intuition and your psychic senses? And I know this is something that you've had to learn.
Oh, I've had to learn, yeah, because as a child I was sensitive, intuitive, and stroke psychic, had no clue what was going on. Didn't realise I had a choice to turn it on or off because I didn't realise it was what it was, and lived a lot of my time out of my body and floating about because it was easier than feeling everything that I was feeling when in my body. So learning to ground myself, learning to be really fully in the present moment helped me then to navigate closing down, turning it on and off, knowing what was mine, and okay, I should be feeling this because this is my emotion. I don't need to be feeling that because that's not my emotion. Developing a way to, my name's Clare, clarity.
Yes.
It was a journey to finding what actually it meant to feel clear. Because I didn't know, because everything was so confusing and so chaotic because there was so much information coming at me, and I had such a hard time working out who I was in all of that. Finding a way to use my body to walk, to exercise, to go to the gym, to swim, get into my body, enjoy being in my body, enjoy the sensation of being grounded, understanding what even grounded meant, because I thought I knew what it meant, but over time I realised that there was more grounding I can do. And that's why I find meditation helpful to slow the roll, slow everything down in my mind, create some space so that I can discern between what's mine, what's others, and how to hear the intuition and utilise it usefully, filter out other influences that aren't useful intuition, and navigate from a place of stillness.
So how would you say embracing intuition can lead to better decision making in personal, professional, or spiritual life? How do you work with that?
I think that better decision making, they have to undefine what better is. Better decision making would be the result that keeps you most aligned to your path. We think about better decision making, more money, better decision, more success, better decision. And it's not always about that. I think ultimately we have a path that we're here to walk, and sometimes it might not be easy, but if we're going in the right direction, there's a sense of congruence with that. And if we start going in the wrong direction, there's a dissonance and a confusion, and things don't feel, there's lack of a flow. So sometimes we might be flowing in the right direction, and it might be hurdles and up and down, but because we're going in the right direction, there's a congruence with that, and it might not be easy, but I know I need to go this way. If we take the easy path, quote fingers, and go off on a tangent, the dissonance that comes with that, the discombobulation that comes with that, once you get more in tune with what's right for you and what's not right for you, becomes very loud. And so you pull yourself back into the congruence of moving forward. You might not know where this path is going, but it feels like the right direction, even if it's not easy. And then ultimately you realize, oh, this is why I've gone this way.
So when you're working with, say, your professional clients,
Yes.
business sense, do you apply the same dynamics to the business as you would if they were coming for personal issues?
It depends on how they ask the question. If they're looking for if they think that their whole life is dependent upon the success of their business and they're invested in that, that doesn't necessarily mean it's right for their soul and what they're here to do.
Interesting, yes.
So I would open them up to, yes, you could go this route, and this could be, you could take this job and it's very high powered and it's very successful, but what about the quality of life and the children? And it depends on what their biggest priorities are. So I'm not about telling people, yes, do this, don't do that. I help them to understand and unlock what is their main priority, and then they can make those choices from that informed decision. So we clear the static and who they think they should be and all the ways in which they habitually think, to really get to, is this the right thing for you in the long run? And maybe being successful, that's what they're here to do this time.
Right.
And that's then they're the role model for their children because they show them that anything's possible. So that may well be what the guiding principle is for that moment. But it's about helping somebody distill what the most important thing is for them moving forward, and how to move them forward with integrity and grace in whichever way, in whichever direction they choose. We have choice at every given moment, and we may have an overarching direction we're meant to go in, and we may choose to go off that to have a different experience.
So, favourite question of all, what do you think the world would look like if more people embraced their psychic abilities and trusted their intuition?
But I think it would look very different. I think it would be a much more honest place. I think people would be a lot happier because they would quickly see where happiness lies and where it doesn't, and where we make decisions on hallowed logic and what we think we should be doing. But when we drop into what's really important and a quality of life and a congruence within ourselves, we can make decisions based on, actually, I'm going to be happy if I go in this direction. My quality of life is going to be better if I go here. And if everyone is psychic, quote fingers, can read the motives and intentions and thoughts to a degree of other people, then no one's going to be able to lie.
Very true.
If we can talk to someone, when you talk to somebody, you think, yeah, I don't know, I'm just not sure doesn't seem to ring true. Like, they told me this, but I just don't believe. They're telling me they're fine with such and such, but I just, I just don't feel it. And then you've had this dissonance. It doesn't feel right to me. Or when you see someone, an interview with somebody or someone on the news, they're like, oh, yeah, but, they're telling me the politician's saying X, but it doesn't feel right. And when you really get into a sense of that doesn't feel, does that feel true? Is there something else going on here? This isn't the entire truth. When lots of people wake up and lots of people are feeling like that, it's harder and harder to pull the wool over people's eyes. It's harder and harder to accept half-truths because it's just not interesting. Because if there's a dissonance every time something's an untruth, it's uncomfortable. So you go with truth.
So, the big question.
Yes.
Why now? Why now is psychic ability and intuition so important?
I think we've touched on it a little bit, talking about how the way society is at the moment, what's happening on the planet. We had an enforced period of everyone being at home for a period of time a few years ago, and I think a lot of people started asking questions during that time, started thinking about priorities in life differently, started looking within. Everything was pressed on pause. It gave people a chance to take a pause and take a reflection. And I think coming out of that phase and reintegrating back into trying to go back to, quote fingers, normal, a lot of people are asking questions, feeling differently about society. We talk about fake news, how 10 years ago people would have laughed at someone who suggested it was such a thing. Now it's quite common vernacular to talk about fake news and things aren't real. And we know that AI can create anything to look like somebody we know talking on, having a conversation or an interview, and it's not even them. Everything can be manipulated. And I think it's really important now more than ever that we can trust our intuition so we can navigate what we're told, what we see, what we're asked to accept as truth. We need to know what our truth is, and to navigate this era of misinformation that we're living in, using our intuition and wisdom can help us using skepticism as a truth barometer to accept or reject things. We can curate out of all the myriad of information that's thrown at us what actually feels true to us, how we want to live our lives, and how we want to see our future, and how we want to move forwards. And I think using our intuition now more than ever is so important to be able to do that.
And embracing that, for want of a better word, emotional intelligence,
yes,
intellectual curiosity, it's more valuable than ever. And hopefully, with podcasts like you're doing and the work you're doing, people will see that that's where the value is.
Yes, I think so. And I think there's so much misinformation. There's so much, we begin to realise that a lot of what we see, there's an agenda behind the curated content we see on social media. There's an agenda behind the news. There's an agenda behind a lot of things we see. And I think by being able to navigate from a place of choosing, actually that doesn't feel like a truth to me, but this feels like a truth to me. And coming back to ourselves and trusting ourselves and trusting our wisdom and trusting our knowing and developing and exploring our emotional intelligence and using our intelligence. Look how many people are just stuck on a phone, and all of that is going into our unconscious, and it's telling us how we should think and telling us how we should feel and telling us how we should approach and do things and how we should live our lives. And we need to reclaim our autonomy.
And on that, I think that is a wonderful place to ask my final question.
Yes.
Which is, having embraced your reluctant psychic, are you glad you did?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm glad I understood what was going on.
Yeah.
So I understand, okay, so I'm intuitive, I'm sensitive, I'm psychic, let's use the umbrella term.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why everything feels so...
Oh, that's what was wrong with me.
Yes, that's what's wrong with me. That's why everything in my mind was so chaotic, and I felt so exhausted doing what other people, like normal things, like, as you say, supermarket or visiting people in a hospital, or, all the things I felt completely wiped by, realising there was a reason for it, realising that I can turn it off, realising that I can choose what I listen to and what I don't, realising that with it, sifting through all the information that I was picking up on, that there were nuggets of gold that I then learned how to sift out, like a gold mine, the gold prospecting,
yeah,
finding those gold and then acting on it. So I'd have, for example, I had a thought one day, wouldn't you like to wake up in sunshine every day? I was like, okay. So I found my friend Atassier, who I'd met in the UK, but he lived in California. And I said, hi, I know you invited me to come and stay at some point. How about next week? And he was like, sure. So because I listened to that completely seemingly random thought, it took my life on a whole different trajectory and onto many adventures. And the more I then listened to those and identify those golden thoughts, those golden nuggets of, if I listen to this, there's something in it, I don't know what it is right now, it doesn't make any sense in my context of my current life or my current day, but if I listen to that, then magic can happen. And so glad that I embraced it, so glad that I moved through my reluctance and embraced it. So I hope that if nothing else, this podcast helps our listeners to do the same, to listen to those golden nugget thoughts and allow that magic to unfold.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Judy, so much for coming in today. Thank you so much for the chat.
You're very welcome.
And see you again, I hope.
It was great fun.
Yeah, thank you. That's it for today's episode of The Rise of the Reluctant Psychic. If something resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Tag me on Instagram at @ClareCusack_The Life Healer, and let's keep the conversation going. Want to go deeper? Get exclusive content, bonus episodes, and guided meditations over on Patreon at patreon.com/Clare Cusack. And if you want to know what are the 5 signs that the universe is trying to wake you up, then head over to my website www.clarecusack.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate and review. It really helps more people find the show. Until next time, trust yourself, trust your path, and keep rising, one reluctant psychic at a time.